Good morning, all of you. Just let's wait for a few minutes.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
How many participants generally log in by this time? It's about 36. So shall we begin? I think it's a good time to begin. I gave you 5 minutes. What do you say?
Okay, ma'am.
No, generally, like how are these? Since this is my first session, I am not very sure how the other teachers are going about.
They join slowly, ma'am.
Yeah, so when do the other teachers begin? Right on dot 9 o'clock, or do they give a little bit of?
No, ma'am, they are starting at 9 o'clock.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, so I gave you 5 minutes more than that. Okay. So as Dr. Christopher began, I'll just keep my switch on my video for a few minutes because most of us dislike these online classes. But the reason that it gives us such an odd feeling doing it online without personal contact. It doesn't matter. You can switch on your videos too for a second so that we have some physical contact, right? I know we are all, we are not living in kind of star houses like Amitabh Bachchan or somebody. So sometimes we will have to make do with our background. It's okay, as long as there's no noise. So we'll start off with, did Dr. Christopher start with any sessions in American literature?
Yes, ma'am. The Unit 1 background. Unit 1 background.
So how much has he done? Because The Invisible Man is based on, has to be connected with racism.
Ma'am, sir has completed on American Dreams, American Puritanism. 1 second, ma'am.
American Dream and what was the other topic?
American Puritanism, Transcendentalism, and Harlem Renaissance. These 4 topics he has covered.
So all the 4 background topics he has been able to.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, right. So let me connect The Invisible Man basically to the Harlem, the American Dream. Yeah, you can unmute yourself. Thank you. Right. Somebody's mic is still on. Because the sessions are also being recorded. I'm also trying to ensure that, yeah, thank you. So, American Dream, as Sir has explained, is something you have to keep in mind when we read Ralph Ellison's novel, Invisible Man. Since we don't have a lot of time, paucity of time, so I'll try to finish off Invisible Man in these 2 hours. The American Dream promised life, liberty, equality, happiness. Everything you want. The dream gave the impression to people in America that you name it, you try for it, you can achieve it. But then, the situation of blacks in America particularly has been the worst situation. Slavery and racism has destroyed the very fabric of democracy in America. America boasts itself as a democratic nation, no doubt. But then we all know the consequences of racism and slavery. So this particular novel The Invisible Man talks about the plight or the situation of a black person in America. Of course, this talks about invisible man. So they are trying to project through this novel how an African American man feels in America. I don't know, basically speaking, in classes of literature, we try to teach or help the students pick up certain basic things about reading literature and understanding and interpreting literature.
Ma'am,
Yes.
please say your topic name, ma'am.
Invisible Man. Any other doubt? Please mute yourself. Somebody. Okay. Yeah, if you have any doubts, we can you can chat maybe, because your topic is okay. I'm Invisible Man. Right. It's a novel. I'm chatting it. I'm texting it so you can read. Okay. It's anybody who comes late also. So let's try not to have all these disturbances, because that will break the flow and the continuity of my thought. And as it is, the novel is a little long and complex. Oh, somebody wants to know what paper. It's American literature. Okay. 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 Yeah. Sometimes we assume because there's been some change in the schedule, so you might not be aware. Thank you for alerting me. Yeah. So I'm doing American literature. This is the final year class, right?
Yeah.
Ma'am,
Yes,
yes, ma'am.
Right. So now let's go back to the plight of the blacks in America, especially compared to all other classes, all other race. Blacks have been the most victimized. And yeah, actually, I went off somewhere from. We try to teach you how to read and look at literature. So literature classes, while I teach you, I don't just want to look at, give you the summary and all, but how do you understand? How do you try to read literature and understand and interpret on your own? So let me give you some important parameters quickly for maybe the next 5 minutes. Is it all right? I'll just spend 5 to 10 minutes so that it's easy for you to have these. See, supposing you have to describe a laptop. Okay. You want to describe a laptop, you will describe it in terms of the color, the make, the speed, the RAM, all those specifications. So literature also will have some parameters. So write down number 1, 3 M's. We call it as 3 M's. Number 1, 3 M's. The man or the writer. So the writer's personal life will give us some inkling, some understanding into the literature, into the text that he wrote. Is it a man? Is it a woman? What kind of life did they live? Their personal life. Number 2, the mind. How was their upbringing? How was their mind, their education? Did you do T.S. Eliot's Wasteland, by the way? In first year, did you have?
Wasteland.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you know T.S. Eliot's Wasteland is very heavy, and he has read a lot of other classic writers. So the way he quotes from Dante, the way he quotes from Greek writers, the way he quotes from Latin writers, French writers, how much of an influence has been on his mind comes out through his work, right? So the man who wrote or the writer who wrote is important. The writer's mind that has been shaped by his personal, social, educational, right? The family and other upbringings are important. Just give me one. Sorry. So the kind of an education that went into the person and the milieu, the third M is milieu, M-I-L-I-E-U. The age in which he was living is also very, very important. Because the age shapes many things. The context, the background of the work, the society in which he lived, what kind of ideas, what kind of culture prevailed. All these are influence, can be seen in a writer's work. Okay, so these are the 3 M's you should remember: man, mind, milieu. Apart from this, now you can just write down a few things very quickly. The title of a work is like the index. So the title always gives you an inkling and an idea of what it is going to be about. So T.S. Eliot's Wasteland tells you that, okay, what is it that the writer wants to, it gives you a hint that this poem is going to talk about something that can be compared to a wasteland. And now that we are talking about Invisible Man, so the title tells you that probably the novel or the work is going to be about things to do with identity. Okay? So title tells you something, write down the next point. The genre tells you something. Is it a genre and subgenre? What novel? Is it fiction? Is it poetry? Is it drama? Again, within fiction, you have various kinds of novels. You have historical novel, you have romantic novel, you have Bildungsroman novel, you have picaresque novel. Supposing you take up poetry, you have epic poetry, you have elegy. So if you have done elegy written on a country churchyard by Thomas Gray, you will know that elegy is a song sung on the death of somebody, a mourning song. So whose death are you mourning? So country churchyard is a mourning about the loss of a village life, how the rural rustic life has been destroyed, right? So what genre and the subgenre. If it's a play, what kind of a play is it? Is the structure of the play? Is it a 5-act play? Is it a 3-act play? Is it a 1-act play? How many scenes are there? What are does that have domestic realism? Okay. Third point. So I'm just giving you very quickly. Number 1 is title. Number 2 is genre and subgenre. Number 3 is story and plot. What is the difference between story and plot? A story is narrated. A story is it's a casual events. Okay. Can you just quickly tell me any novel that you have done recently in one of these CDE classes?
Kantapura.
Sorry?
Kantapura.
Kantapura, okay. So, Kantapura, you recollect the characters, Achaka, Murthy, Kenchama, right? So, in Kantapura, you have the story being told to you. What happened? Why did the village... the sequence of events. Okay? What is the difference between a story and a plot? So story is, write down, casual narration of events. But a plot is an analytical, you can write down, causal, why it happens. Story tells you what happens, plot tells you why it happens. So the construction of a plot is very, very important. So we finished three things: title, genre and subgenre, story and plot. Again, within each one, I'm giving you the other connected ideas because I don't want to spend the whole time on this. I'm telling you all this because this will help you for all the topics. Number 4, if it's a novel, if it's a plot, any fiction, fiction or play, sometimes characters are important. Okay, so characters, are they flat characters? Are they round characters? Who are the characters? What is the characterization? What kind of techniques does the writer use? So the characters give you some inclination, some idea. You can analyze a text in terms of the characters. Number 5, I'll just stop here because there will be too many. All the other technical, write down, technical, stylistic, literary elements associated. If you're writing down, let me know, otherwise I'll go fast.
Yeah, writing, ma'am.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, we are writing.
Yeah. Technical, literary, stylistic, etc. elements of a particular genre. So I'll just give you one example. So if it's a poem, then you will talk about, poem has exclusive features like rhyme, stanzas, right? Alliteration, assonance. Some of these will come to all the other genres too. Poem exclusively has a lot of images. But a novel and play and poem will have symbols. So symbols used, alliteration used, the language devices used, irony used, dramatic irony, monologue. In a play, monologue and soliloquy, when does the playwright use? Why does he use? What is the effect of it? If you've done Julius Caesar, okay, Shakespeare's plays, a play actually is a dialogue, right? A play has a lot of conversation between characters. But within a play, a writer would like to use, a playwright would use a lot of, what do we call, soliloquies or, monologues, where the speaker speaks alone. Why? Because monologues also have a function. So some of these things will tell you, help you to understand. Okay, so let's go now more into Invisible Man. I'm not giving you, do you have your notes with you by any chance? I didn't go to collect my notes from the CDE.
Material we are having.
Material is there, ma'am.
Is it a soft copy or is it a hard copy?
Printed, ma'am.
Printed one, okay. So I don't know, since I don't have the same version, can I do one thing if it's all right for you? I have a Word document with me, my own document that I prepared from the net, of course. So is that all right if I share the document and then go through that?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Sure, ma'am.
Yes, madam.
That might be better.
Sure, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So let me just share. Okay, yeah, thank you. I'll just switch off my video so that you don't get distracted. Right. I don't want too many things on the screen too. So if you can see the first part of the notes I have kept for the writer's biography. I'm not going to spend time. So we'll go straight away because it's 9:25. So I think, is the font enough? So Ellison described Invisible Man as a novel about innocence and human error, a struggle through illusion to reality. This novel tells us, this one line tells us so much about this. So there is a character who is innocent. And there is a character there are characters who commit some errors. And they are living under illusion. Right? What is an illusion? An illusion, remember American Dream. American Dream promised everybody freedom, and if you have the skill, if you have the ability, you can become a millionaire in America. That's why Americans think that even at the age of 40 you can change your profession, because they believe in your ability to perform, not just your educational qualifications. So if you can make it, if you would like to make it, and if you have what it is in you to work hard, you can make it. So American Dream, when the Constitution was drafted and they said this is the land of freedom and opportunities, irrespective of race, caste, etc. So people were under the illusion that we can have anything that we want to, anything that we attempt, we can try and get it. So that was the illusion in which the character was living. But unfortunately, when you move from illusion to reality, it's always a painful journey. So this is a narrator. In the novel, you have a narrator who is journeying in his struggle for justice and equality. Okay, so the black man, there are all these details you can read. So the black man here moves from illusion to reality. So who are the important characters? If you have your notes, just take a minute to look at it and tell me who are the characters. You have one important character. He is also the narrator. And the narrator is unnamed. Remember, the whole point of the novel is we are talking about invisibility. So, if you look at the very word invisible, does the word invisible tell us that it's about something which is not there or something which is there? Tell me. Invisible means
there.
It is
there, but we can't see.
Yes, it is there, but it is not seen, right? So the black man, the unnamed narrator, is the protagonist, okay? And he is trying to take us through his high school days, through his college days in the South. And he goes to the North. Okay? So he talks about his young days of growing up when we talk about school and college, we talk about the education, right? And he grew up in the South. So America was almost on the verge of being broken up into two because of the North and South American parts. South wanted slavery to continue, whereas North wanted slavery to be removed. South were more, cotton plantation and all this. So this narrator thinks that in the South that he grew up, racism is very rampant. Anyway, he educated himself and then he went to the North. When he went to the North, he thought North would give him a lot of freedom. North would help him realize his dreams of becoming one equal along with the whites. But he realized that the experiences in the North are as bad as in the South. North also, blacks are exploited and used by people for their own purposes. Even in organizations which are working for justice and equality also, everywhere people are selfish. Okay, so who are the characters? Did you go through it and tell me?
Brother Jack, Raz
Yes.
the Exhorter, Todd Clifton, Reinhardt, Dr. Bledsoe.
So only 4 are given for you, right? Right. So we have
6, ma'am.
6. Okay. That's why I'm just showing you this because this will help you. There's a long list of characters. Of course, they have given you only a few there, but the most important one is the narrator.
Okay.
And he is a misguided, miseducated young man. He is on his quest for meaning and identity as a black man in white America. He is the one who remains nameless and invisible throughout the novel. I'll come to the story quickly, don't worry. I'm trying to divide very quickly. Up to 10, I will give you the story and characters. From 10 to 1, we will go through the analysis, okay? Because the analysis will not make any meaning if you don't understand at least the story outline. So you have the narrator and then you have the grandfather. The grandfather is important because he's the one who tells the narrator. Of course, he appears only through the memories. And he's the one who tells the narrator, open and see what is in your briefcase. Okay. The school superintendent, Jackson, is an important character who's given for you. Okay. I'm not putting a name for everybody else or a number. I'm also giving you founder. I want you to remember the founder. Because he is important. The founder is a black man who has accomplished certain things, and he is a great influencer on the narrator. Okay. These are all the characters, don't worry. Now, this I have already highlighted. Brother Jack is very important because he is the leader of Brotherhood. Now, what is Brotherhood? It's a political organization they appear to be fighting for the rights of the
Oneness.
poor. And the narrator joins the brotherhood and they use him as a spokesperson, but later on they expel him. Okay, so these are all the other fellow brothers in the brotherhood. There are a few women characters. Emma, but she's sexually attracted to the narrator, but she is also the mistress to brother Jack. Then you have Hubert's wife, have Sybil. I'm trying to tell you some of these things. This is what you will find in the novel. Okay? I don't know how to mail you this notes in case you are interested. Maybe one of you can.
Through Telegram.
Telegram, I don't know. What I'll do is maybe one of you can mail me your mail ID, send me your mail ID, and I will send it to you. Then you can share it. Okay, right. So let's quickly go into the story.
Telegram is there now, ma'am.
Sorry.
Telegram is there, ma'am. If you send in Telegram, everyone are useful.
I don't know. I have not used it yet, ma. I have not used it yet.
Okay.
So I would request one of you to just send it.
Okay.
Okay, right. I'll try to learn it maybe by the end of the CDE course. Okay, right. So somebody's trying to.
Madam, I have sent the email ID.
Yes. Manasa Road.
Yes, ma'am.
Kandula Lingaya also.
Kandala. Let me share. Okay, I'm copying Manasa's email ID. And please make sure. I know, thank you. So many of you have responding.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I just want to copy this. So please ask and ensure that you send it to everybody else. So the narrator.
Yes,
yeah.
I'm in Telegram group. I'll share in Telegram group, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Masa. So the narrator begins his story and tells us how invisibility is not because he's not existing, but because the others refuse to see him. He talks about his childhood. He was living underground and he was stealing electricity. He burns so many lights. And now he has undergone to write the story of his life and invisibility. Why is he writing it now? Writing is cathartic. Cathartic means it gives you a sense of freedom and liberation, right? From the painful past. Please,
Alveli garu, please mute your microphone.
all of you.
అలివేలు ప్లీజ్ మైక్ మీ మ్యూట్ చేసుకోరా ప్లీజ్. లాట్ ఆఫ్ డిస్టర్బెన్స్ కమింగ్ ఫ్రమ్ యువర్ సైడ్.
Yes. So we have only 20 minutes. Let's go quickly. So in the 1920s and 30s, the narrator lived in the South. Because he was a gifted speaker, he's invited to give a speech to a group of important white men in his town. So look at the context. As a black man who is living in the South, and as a young man, he was invited to give a speech to a group of important white men. South, remember I told you, was very, very racist. Young men, young people will have a lot of ideals, will have a lot of illusions. They will believe, okay, this is what the law says, so why can't I do it? Why am I not entitled to it? Right? So when he gave this speech to important white men, look at each, it gives us so much. So after the speech, so he must have spoke very, very passionately about the rights of the black people and how the black people need social justice. Of course, the law is there, constitution is there. Okay, and this is also very important because 1920s, please do make sure that you follow some of this, because 1960s is a civil rights movement. Ignore the spelling mistakes. I'm trying to save time. So civil rights, America is a free country, is a democratic country. But I already gave you in my explanation, told you at the beginning of the class, there was a lot of racism and injustice. So though the law banned after the during the presidency of Abraham Lincoln, North and South were almost divided and the country was almost breaking into two parts. That was when Abraham Lincoln took a very firm step and he decided to end slavery once for all and and ensure that America. So that was done long back, but still blacks didn't have equality. So in 1960s, civil rights movement in America started. So though the law gave freedom, though the law said separating the blacks and whites is wrong and crime, still the blacks were separated. So in 1920s and 30s, okay, you can imagine before the civil rights movement began, how terribly the blacks were oppressed, how terribly the blacks were discriminated against. Booker T. Washington, I just mentioned, we saw him, is known for, he is like the Ambedkar of our country. How he fought against the injustice, the system, which did not even allow him to study. And he not only finished his education, he became a great scholar, and he also established a university for blacks, where blacks should be allowed. So Booker T. Washington is known for that. Now, after his speech, the men reward him with a briefcase containing a scholarship to prestigious black college. But they humiliate him to fight a battle royal. What is this battle royal? Look at how this young man is made to play a game. All black men are blindfolded and put in a boxing ring. Now I want you to imagine this game. And they all fight against each other. So this tells us so much that, okay, if you are in a blindfold, you won't know who is fighting against whom. And all the black men are here. That means the black men are made to fight against each other. So in a very, very subtle manner, white people do this kind of a thing. Okay. And then after the battle, the white men, this is another inhuman thing that these people make him go through. All the black young men are forced to, they are forced to scramble over an electrified rug. That means there's a rug. It is electrified. That means you get shocks. And what is there on the rug? You have gold coins. What are they? Real gold coins? No, they are fake gold coins. And these young men, black men, are running over this electrified rug to get these gold coins, which are actually fake. So all this show the plight of the black men. Okay? So the narrator has a dream that night in which he imagines that his scholarship is actually a paper with a command to keep him running, to keep him fighting, to keep him doing all these senseless, meaningless, humiliating acts. Okay. 3 years later, the narrator is now a student at a college. He is asked to drive a wealthy white trustee of the college, Mr. Norton, around the campus. As he's driving, look at the work he is asked to do. Okay, the Norton talks so much about his daughter, then shows an interest about another black man, Jim Trueblood, who impregnated his own daughter. Okay. After hearing this story, Norton needs a drink and narrator takes him to the Golden Day Saloon and brothel that normally serves black men. A fight breaks out among a group of mentally imbalanced black veterans. If you have noticed, I showed you the black women characters in the novel, in the list. Now, through this story, I want you to go carefully. I'm going a little carefully, though it's all written here, because I want you to remember and make a note of how the characters are presented, the black people are presented. Look at what kind of places they are visiting. Okay? The blacks are presented as imbalanced. And Norton passes out, that means he faints. And then one of the black veterans helps him revive. Taunts both Norton and the narrator for their blindness regarding race relations. Okay. We will come to this later if we have time, or maybe I'll mention. Is it all right? Because we don't have a lot of time. Can I mention right away? See, So the blacks and the whites, though the law says they are equal and though the law says they are they should live side by side happily, racism exists. And racism is horrible. I think I'll try to add whatever comments I'm adding extra, I'll use in capital letters. So it's a terrible situation. We've just seen the games that the whites force the black people to play here. Right? So how can you say that the whites and blacks are good in relations with each other? How can you say that the blacks are not treated badly by the whites? They are treated very badly. Okay? So the Though some people present the man who takes care of this Norton who passed out, who fainted. Passes out means fainted. He reminds them that, look, as a white man, you think you are good, and as a black man, you think the young narrator thinks that, okay, the whites are good. Okay, now let's go quickly. Back at college, the narrator listens to a long, impassioned sermon on the subject of the college founder, whom the blind Barbie glorifies with poetic language. After the sermon, the narrator is chastised by the college president, Mr. Dr. Bledsoe. He is an important character, so he's already given to you. And he who has learned of the narrator's misadventures with Norton. Okay, these misadventures. So Bledsoe rebukes the narrator, saying that he should have shown the white man an idealized version of the black life. Please mute yourself. Please mute yourself. Okay. See, when Norton as a white man, okay, he wanted to go around, where does the narrator take him? He takes him to a saloon and a brothel that serves black men. That means he's showing a very bad picture of black people. So obviously there is a fight which the white man cannot take it, so he faints. So Dr. Bledsoe is angry with the narrator because the narrator, the young man, did not show a better picture of a black life to the college president, Bledsoe. Okay, not college president, but this Norton, who is an important man. Okay, so what does Dr. Bledsoe do? This is very, very important. So he expels the narrator and he gives him 7 letters of recommendation. He tells the narrator, look, you have done a mistake, so leave the university, leave the college, but I'm giving you letters of recommendation. Go to New York and search for a job. So the narrator comes to New York, Harlem, 1930s. And here the grandfather makes him, he wants him to open the suitcase, briefcase, and read out. So actually he's going on applying for a job and he's showing the letter. So each place he goes to give a letter to that, they are sealed covers. Okay. So as he applies for jobs and he gives the letters of recommendation, he doesn't get a job. Finally, he goes to the office of one of the letters addresses, a trustee named Mr. Emerson. He meets Emerson's sons, who opens the letters and tells the narrator that these are actually not letters of recommendation, but these are actually letters that Bledsoe wrote about the narrator, saying that the narrator is an dishonorable and unreliable person. And poor narrator is now shocked to realize that what he thought as letters of recommendation which would help him get a good job were actually letters telling people negative things which don't even exist, probably, which were not supposed to help him really get a job. Anyway, now Emerson's son helps him get a job at a very, very low pay. He's a college educated graduate, right? But he gets a job at a paint factory. Here in this paint factory, again, it's not here, but let me tell you. You know how he gets the job at this paint factory? He gets this job in the paint factory as a black man. See, people don't want to give job to a black man, but he gets here and he's very happy to get it. You know how he got it? Because the white men at that time were on a strike. Because the white people were on strike and the black man was available, they took all these kinds of people and got more work done with very less pay. Why will employees be on a strike? Obviously, for some conditions or for some monetary betterment. So there again, see how he got a job. But unfortunately, there also he's exploited. Okay. In the paint factory also, many things happen. He, at one point, the tank explodes and the narrator is knocked unconscious. There are men fighting. Okay. And look at what happened. This was an accident which actually would have made him lose his life. But he's happy, at least he's alive, but he is in the hospital. He lost his memory and is even unable to speak. And this is because the white people, the white owners treat him like that. Okay. The white doctors in the hospital, look at what again happens. Sees the arrival of their unidentified. He doesn't have a name, right? He's just a black man. And now look at this. They are trying to conduct their experiments. Thankfully, the experiments are successful. He recovers his memory, leaves the hospital, but he collapses on the street. Some black community members take him, and there's one Mary, a kind woman, who lets him live with her and takes care of him. One day, the narrator witnesses the eviction of an elderly black couple from Harlem apartment. Christopher sir talked to you about Harlem and Harlem Renaissance. So if you remember, Harlem is a place.
Yes, madam.
Right. So blacks are not allowed to rent anywhere. They're not, even if they can pay the rent, they are not given accommodation and rent. So many people went and lived in Harlem because it was cheap. And I'm sorry, not cheap. For the blacks, they would even give exorbitant price. They would hike the price of the apartment, but that was the only place where the blacks could stay. And here, narrator witnesses an elderly black couple who are being just sent out. And the narrator cannot stand this injustice. So he spoke against it. Brother Jack hears him and gives him a position as a spokesperson because the narrator has oratorial skills. So Jack now gives him this position to help the socially oppressed. Initially, he rejects the offer, but he takes the job to pay back Mary for her hospitality. But the brotherhood demands that the narrator take a new name, break with his past, and move to a new apartment. See how slowly they are trying now to gain control of his life. Here again, even in this brotherhood movement, he doesn't have the freedom and his own individuality. He has a name, but they want him to change his name, break away with his past, and go into a new apartment. He is inducted. He is trained in the rhetoric. Many things happen here. Now, this is important. This character, I don't know if they have mentioned, Ras the exhorter. So he
Given, ma'am.
it's given. Thank you. So he's the one who opposes the idea of blacks and whites interracial community, because Ras knows that however much the whites say that you black people are like our own brothers, they cannot live in peace. There will always be injustice. So he wants the blacks to fight against the whites and fight for their rights. So Ras is the extortioner. And then the narrator becomes a high profile figure. He enjoys his work. But one day he receives an anonymous note warning him to remember his place as a black man in the brotherhood. This brotherhood is actually, by the way, so let me clarify. This brotherhood is a mix of blacks and whites, all fighting for social injustices. So when the narrator is becoming very, very prominent and important, okay, he is enjoying this high profile work, he's becoming powerful. Suddenly he's made to remember, he gets a warning letter, note, and he is reminded of his blackness. He is reminded of his position. And slowly you see what happens. Because he is becoming powerful, now false accusations come. They put the blame that you are trying to become popular. You are getting your own personal motives. And they lay false charges. So the narrator is moved to another post. So look at the condition of the invisible man. At every stage, he is being broken, destroyed, his future, his career, his education, his job, his life. Everywhere there is a threat. Now he is made as an advocate of women's rights. Now what's happening? See, and this is a women's right of blacks and whites. After giving a speech one evening, he is seduced by one white woman at the gathering. How the common understanding of white women believe or and think that black men are sexually powerful. So every white, not every, I'm sorry. Some white women want to have sexual relations with a black person because they think that it's a I'm sorry, you are all grown up, so I'm sorry for talking some of these things openly. So they think that an affair with a physical relationship with a black man, would be more satisfying than the white person, the white man. And that is how the narrator is seduced by a white woman. Otherwise, any white, remember lynching. Did Christopher sir talk about lynching? Lynching is public. Did you come across this word? What do we mean by public murder? All people.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So black man, okay, would be put to death by a mob, even if he sometimes looked at a white woman. Okay? If a white woman felt threatened also, she can go and complain, and all the white people can come and put this man to death. But such a situation, look at how the white woman seduces him. Okay. Now the brother after a short time, the brotherhood sends the narrator to Harlem, and he realizes that many people, black members, have left the group because they realize that the brotherhood has betrayed their interests. The narrator finds Clifton, an important person, selling Sambo dolls. This is important. There's a significance to this. What are Sambo dolls? Sambo dolls show the black women, the black slaves' lives. Okay. It's about 10:06, so let me quickly come to the end of the story. There's so many things that happen. The brotherhood is furious with him. Okay. What does Clifton do? Clifton does not have the permit to sell his dolls on the street, so white policemen shoot him dead. Just because he doesn't have a permission to sell, how can the white policeman shoot him? The narrator feels very bad, so on his own initiative, he holds a funeral for Clifton and gives a speech. The brotherhood is furious at the narrator, and many things happen. The brotherhood gets angry and they send the narrator back to Brother Hambro to learn about all the organizations. Now, narrator wants to take revenge on Jack and the brotherhood because they have not been standing up for the rights of the socially oppressed people. How can Clifton be shot to death? In Harlem, there's more agitation over race relations. There's a confrontation. Ras, the exhorter, confronts him. And Ras sends his men to beat the narrator. And this is important. Narrator disguises himself in a dark glasses and hat and runs away. Many people mistake him for Reinhardt. And who is Reinhardt? He's a pimp, he's a bookie, he's a lover. And they are now after the narrator, thinking that he's Reinhardt. Reinhardt is another crooked fellow. So now, if you're following, the narrator is running from person to person, place to place. He's running for his life. There are many things, so let me come. So the narrator flees. Ras is after his life, and in his attempt to evade them, the narrator falls down into a manhole. The police mock him and draw the cover over the manhole. And then the narrator says he's stayed underground ever since. And the end of his story is also the beginning. Okay. Now he is writing his story. So he takes us back in his story. So what happens? He remains invisible. The underground covers him. Covered. See, what should the police people do? The police should lift him out, right? But instead, they cover him totally. right? So he's covered, he remains invisible forever. I hope you got the story to some extent. Can I go into the theme? I'm sorry, I didn't get you. One of you, please unmute. Only one. Will make the spokesperson for the class. I know I can't ask everybody in general. Or we'll do one thing. Only if you have a problem, you unmute and speak. Otherwise, I'll continue. Shall I give you 2 minutes or 3 minutes break? I want to talk about now the themes. What do you say? Or shall I continue or give you a 5-minute break? Continue, yeah. So what are the themes? So the most important theme is the theme of racism and as an obstacle to individual identity. Now, I went through some of the details of the story in detail because you have to understand how the narrator as an individual was not able to realize his own self. Who is he? What is he? He is going through a series of communities. Okay? He's a worker, he's a student, how he was treated as a worker, how was he as a person in the brotherhood, how was he? Everywhere, the society is trying to give him roles and also tell him that this is how you should behave and this is how you should act and this is what you have to say.
Class.
Please mute. Lakshmi.
Lakshmi garu, please mute.
Right. So, in every situation, wherever he is, the narrator is told, look, this is not what you should be doing or this is what you should be doing. Remember, even when he takes the white man Norton on the saloon or onto the place where the black people's life is seen, see, probably the narrator took him there so that this man can help. Why did the blacks become like that? So he maybe wanted the white man to realize that because the blacks don't have education, they're drinking and they're spoiling their own life. So he must have taken him to that kind of a saloon to show that if you do something for the black people's life will become better. But he was thrown out. He was condemned for taking Mr. Norton there, right? So everywhere his role is told. He is told that this is right, this is wrong, this is what you should do, and this is not what you should do. Even when Clifton died, and nobody stands up for Clifton, but the narrator takes a funeral, and that also the brotherhood. See, the brotherhood is the one who should be with him. But even the brotherhood is the one which actually tries now to chase him. As he's running away for life, he tries to disguise himself because people, police and whites, everybody is after him. So he wears dark glasses, appears as somebody else, and that somebody else is another terrible person who is wanted. So ultimately, when he falls into the manhole and is covered by the police people, at the end of the novel, that's the last instance. So the narrator is forced to realize that he should be remaining as an invisible person. Why? Because the world is filled with blind people who cannot see. It's not that they cannot see. Many times they don't want to see. The fact that the white people refuse to accept blacks as people with self. People, please mute yourself. Somebody is still again unmute. So the blacks are treated as animals, not even as human beings. We have similar instances in our caste-based system, unfortunately, where people from the lower classes are treated worse than animals. Okay? Right. The second theme is a theme of limitations of ideology. Brotherhood is a group which wanted to fight for justice against oppression. You have a college, you have education, you have people, you have constitution. Okay? So there are institutions that are trying to propagate the idea, the ideology of a free society, a liberated society, a democratic society. But look what has happened. Remember, towards the end, the Brotherhood sends him to Harlem to make him realize that the ideology promises to save, but it actually limits and betrays the freedom of the individual. The third theme you have to talk about is the danger of fighting stereotypes with stereotype. What do we mean by this? Remember the Sambo dolls. Remember those games. Black people are in a terrible condition and they are stereotyped. What do we mean by stereotyped? A black man, I gave you one stereotype image. A black man is supposed to be sexually very virile. Black men are often presented as people who are lazy, people who drink a lot, who fight, who can't be educated. Blacks are supposed to be always very, very obedient. They are presented as servant alike. Okay? Blacks, I remember that Sambo doll. So the doll will play and entertain the white people. Okay? So this is what the blacks should not be doing. But the grandfather, as an old-fashioned man, to the narrator, thinks that blacks should exaggerate their servility to whites. But Ras thinks that blacks should rise up and take their freedom by destroying the whites. So there are conflicting ideas within the black community. But through this novel, Ralph Ellison is trying to tell us that if the white people presented the blacks as drunkards, and if we use the same pictures in our novels, we are continuing that idea. So one of the criticisms, one of the condemnations against Ralph Ellison, the novelist, is blacks are presented in a very bad light by the whites in their novels, in their plays. But the black writer Ralph Ellison also presented. So what is the big difference? So people were angry with Ralph Ellison for using the same stereotypes. Okay? How they have extramarital affairs, how they drink, how they are lazy, how the black people fight all the time against each other. Okay? So it is like betraying their own people. So stereotypes should not be used to fight against the stereotypes. I hope you understood. Okay? You use the same stereotype to fight against that stereotype? No. You have to use another stereotype. That is what the writer is trying to tell. Then the illusory promise of freedom. Remember, I talked about this word illusion and invisible right at the beginning. So illusion tells us that we have a false belief, right? So the writer thought, remember, when he came out with the letters of recommendation, he thought that he is going to get a job. He was living in an illusion. And when he ultimately at the end, when he is told by Emerson's son, and Emerson's son helps him get a job, the job he got, he thought he was given a job. But he was given a job because the whites refused to work there. So everywhere there's an illusion. Okay? So the illusion of freedom is something. And then the self-interested nature of power. Power everybody wants to enjoy. But whoever is at the top of the powerful, they have their own selfish interest.
Renuka Nagarajan, please mute.
I think we should ask the administrator to mute everybody, and maybe we can chat if necessary. In the next class, I will request so that it saves a lot of time. Okay, so Bletson has a responsibility to nurture, because he's a well-educated black man and he's a president of an all-black college. So he has a lot of responsibility to work towards a more equitable and just world. But you know what he does? His primary allegiance is not to his students, but to the white shareholders who finance and hence control the college. So he is only being used as a kingpin. He is only a puppet who is being used by the other white people once again. Okay? Then blindness is a motive. What is a motive? Motives are things which recur or repeat. Okay? So blindness frequently. Remember that initial game I told you, blindfolds. So people are made to appear like that. And then, very important, you have this character, Reverend Homer A. Barbie. You have Brother Jack, who has only one eye. Homer is a Greek blind poet. Again, Brother Jack is blind of one eye. Okay? Also, towards the end, when the narrator addresses the Black community, he has blinding lights. Right? So, people don't seem to. I stands for light and wisdom, knowledge, understanding, etc. So if people are blind, that means they don't have all this. Okay. The second motif is the motif of invisibility, which appears so many times. I've spent enough time on this, so I think I'll not spend much time on invisibility because I spent time on the title. Okay. These are some of the symbols. The Sambo doll and the coin bank. I've retained this point for you to understand. Okay. This is what I told you, all the literary, stylistic, technical things each text will have. So the Sambo doll and the coin bank. What is the coin bank? It is in the shape of a grinning black man. Okay. So these are the stereotypes. How is a black man presented? Like a man who is, so the coin slave who eats coins embodies the idea of a good slave who is happy, who is fawning. Fawning means very happy, dora type lo, Ni banchanaya antaru kada. I hope you understand Telugu. So like a slave, he is very happy when the white man give him some small rewards. Okay, naya paisa coin lo este, you feel very happy. So in the same way, if the white man gives a small favor also, the black man is very, very happy. Like, Emerson showed him a job in the paint factory. The narrator must have felt very happy. But you know the actual truth, right? Okay. So the Sambo doll and the coin bank. What is the Sambo doll? It's a dancing doll. Okay. A dancing black doll, which is supposed to be a black man who is entertaining, who's laughing, who's singing for the whites. So if you want entertainment, call the black man. And they will do something on the, like, the black man is a joker, like the clown. Okay, the Liberty Paints plant, okay, is a complex metaphor. Because what do you do with the trademark is optic white. What is the meaning? Optic white means it can cover up any tint or any stain. So the American society, okay, is trying to cover up black identity. It is trying to ignore that blacks are different. It is trying to treat dark skinned individuals as stains upon white purity. How is optic white made? Through a process that involves mixture of a number of dark colored chemicals, one of which appears as dead black. So the dark colors disappear into the swirling mixture and the paint emerges a gleaming white, showing no trace of its true components. See what happened? Let me explain here. Black food is different. Food, clothes, skin, hair. In everything, blacks are different. Right? But the whites or Europeans, for that matter, they want these differences. How do I present it? Okay, they project that theirs is better. Okay, and standard. So what happens? Blacks, unfortunately, are made to feel inferior and bad, and so we are forced to accept and change according to the white culture, etc. So we call this as assimilation. Example, black hair is very, very curly, right? Right? So people are, black women spend torturous time in straightening their hair to look as a white, that is straight hair. Are you getting my point? So also people go for bleaching and facial. There is a laser technology. Okay. So remember Michael Jackson? He's actually a black man, but if you look at his face color, okay, skin color, is white. So he underwent all that to appear. I'll underline this, okay? So these are examples. So this point, so the paint factory, it has an optic white as its trademark. That means they want to ignore or take away everything that is that appears black, because that is something very staining, that is something very degrading to the white country. Black workers perform all the crucial labor, but white people sell the paint and make the highest wages. Okay, right. I think after this, I want to talk about something else up here. We have, do you get a break? Is it 9 to 11, the class?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So how many minutes break do you have?
No break, ma'am.
So you take your own break, okay. You can go through these notes once again. Okay, I've already highlighted some things for you so that it's easy. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Some more symbols. The narrator's calfskin briefcase. The briefcase where he is carrying his letters. The letters of recommendation, which he thought was going to help him get a job. Okay. So the briefcase is symbolic of his psychological baggage. Psychologically, he is nobody. Who is trying to be somebody. But only at the end he realizes that he will remain as an invisible man forever. Mary Rambo's broken cast iron bank. Remember, Mary is the woman who gave shelter. Okay? The cast iron broken bank symbolizes the narrators. What do you put in a bank? Cast iron bank, that too. It's like a safe, like a deposit. In a bank, you go and put your things in a valuable, right? So what do you put there? What do the black people have as something which is very valuable? It is their own self. But the fact that it is broken stands for their shattered, destroyed image. Their very self is broken and destroyed. Okay? And then you have Brother Top's battered chain links. Chain links tell you that you are chained. You are bound. So he is bound physically and mentally. He got it, some freedom. Battered means he got that it's destroyed. But it's not so strong. The Constitution has given them freedom. But can we really say that they are free? Right? And then you have a lot of color symbolism. Gold symbolizes power, elusive wealth. Then you have red color. Red stands for love and passion in normal, but here it stands for blood and rage and anger and danger. So Brother Jack has red hair. Okay. Then you have the red-faced men at the battle royal. Remember the game they are made to play. The vet's red wheelchair. Okay, there are a number of references. Then you have black and white. Then you have blue. I'm trying to make it according to the color. Blue alludes to the blues. Blues is a form of African American folk music. So whenever they are feeling low and hard and difficult, they talk about, blues talk about the, so from there we get this, why are you so blue? That means why are you so sorrowful today? Okay, so the blues as a motif.
You, ma'am. Melissa, ma'am.
Yes.
Would you please post this document to us, ma'am, for our reference?
Yes, that's where were you? Were you not in the class? I discussed and I took the mail ID of someone. They will post it to you. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Sorry for that. Yeah. Thank you so much.
That's okay. So the blues stands for many things. Then gray, we have seen. Gray is, it's neither black nor white. Gray is a term, slang term used by blacks to refer to whites. Then green is there. I'm going to number symbolism. I'm constantly trying to look at the time. So numbers are also playing very important significance. Number 3 comes very frequently. And this number has significance in all religions, as you can see. And in the novel, you have the narrator seeing 3 white policemen on 3 black horses, 3 brass rings, etc. 3 men in natty cream colored suits. Then you have number 7. 7 is completeness and perfection. In the novel, I hope I made it as clear as I can. So I spent a lot of time preparing this. So in the novel, so I've given you the colors, symbolism, and how it appears in the novel. So Dr. Bledsoe gives 7 letters. So his, the narrator's future is destroyed completely, right? Because they are not letters of recommendation, but letters which put him in a bad light when he's applying for a job. Then you have animal symbolism. I'm ignoring a few here and there. You can read up. You have animal symbolism. I told you, just like the upper caste Indians look down on lower caste Indians and treat them as even less than human beings, white people also look down as blacks as animals. Then you have machine symbolism. This is important. Agricultural South. Okay. And the North with its factories and steel structure. However, the black man is trapped everywhere. Remember, I told you he thought he would come to the North, New York, where he's more free. There are factories, there are industries where he can get jobs instead of working as a slave farmer in the agricultural South. If he travels north and works in a paint factory, does his life get better? No. The same danger continues because whites have not changed. Okay, so this is the machine symbolism. And word play. Remember I told you about the stylistics. The techniques used by each writer in their work, exclusive to their work. This novel is called as Bildungsroman novel. What does Bildungsroman mean? Or coming of age? That means where there is growth, education. Education means he realizes. He understands. From an immature person who was dark, now the writer understands that he will be an invisible man forever. Society, organizations like the Brotherhood, which should be fighting for their betterment, are also equally bad. Okay? So these are some techniques. So Ellison, one second. Yes, Vikram, what is it? Tell me. I'll leave it in the department, I told you. No? I'm in the class. Yeah, give it to Rani. Yes, yes. So Ellison uses black vernacular. Black vernacular means the ordinary language of Black Americans, which has a lot of colloquial expressions. Each language is different. I'm sorry, not each language. Yeah, each language has its own dialects. Do you have any ELT papers in this? Okay. Language has its own dialects, like the Telangana, Rayalaseema, and Black English is different in the sense they use double negatives. Double example I'm giving you. Okay. It's not that they don't know. Sometimes they want to use it. I don't know nothing. Normally, what should we say? I don't know anything. But here they say, I don't know nothing. So you can't, in correct English, you shouldn't be using double negatives. But the Blacks want to use this kind of language as a way of rebellion against the standard white English language. Okay. Please ignore. I'll correct, or you can correct later. Let me complete. So, look at this. That was my general example I gave you. Look at this example. Since you are not reading the novels, Whippoorwill will whip all will when we find him. Okay? It's every tub on its own black bottom. So the writer tries to get a lot of comic effect through a form of wordplay called playing the dozens. So playing the dozens is a subversive type of wordplay in which the language oppressed use the language of the oppressor, whites, against them without directly or openly confronting or challenging. Okay, so look at some examples. puns. So these are all the ways in which Ellison tries to use language and the stylistic devices excuse me, to show his way of getting back at the white society. And this is his distinct way of using. So trigger, nigger, ras, I don't know, maybe the correct pronunciation is race. Yam, for I am, they will say yam. Trusty spelling, manipulated, instead of manipulated, he wants to use the word manipulated. So in the novel, Rambo is a classic figure, but he uses word Sambo, Sambodol. For restroom, he wants to use this restroom. Deadlock, he wants to use the word catlock. And in the end, the narrator becomes hole in his hole. Hyperbole, humor, irony, repetition. His refrain is a word comes very often. What did I do to be so black and blue? Reversal is something very, very important. They are presenting us images of inverted reality. So now black is white, dark is light, freedom is bondage, and underground is overground, above ground. Understatement is again another technique in language. Understatement is where you're trying to put something in a weak term. Overstate means like exaggerate. Understate means something that is very, very, very strong, you're making it very less. Look at this true blood statement, I was lost, to describe his sexual feelings towards his daughter. He is trying to say that, look, I got sexually attracted to my own daughter. But that word, that feeling is conveyed through the simple words, I was lost. So that is an understatement. Double entendres, oxymorons, etc., etc. Okay. So his use of language supports his underlying themes. So what is the underlying theme? There is power in music, especially jazz music, African music. And he's trying to tell us about the continuing race war. Another topic you can consider, I'm also trying to cover some essay questions. So what kind of symbolism, what kind of themes? We've talked about themes, we've talked about symbols, we've talked about some title, how is the title significance, or how does leadership matter? Okay, so this is the last thing I have for the next 5 minutes. So are leaders made or they born? How are the black leaders portrayed? So Invisible Man presents various black leaders. Okay, some are historical figures, but some you have like the black preacher, Homer Bobby, the educator, black educator Bledsoe. The narrator himself is an orator. So leadership roles are important. And how is the leader supposed to lead? They are limited sometimes. Remember, we talked about Bledsoe. How he is controlled again by the whites. Remember the narrator also. He is told not to go too fast. He is told that this is not how you should behave. Okay. Then the athlete, the entertainer, the orator. You can write or take some more points from here and write. This is again something important that I would like to spend a few minutes. Anyway, you've had a class on Harlem Renaissance. So Harlem appeared as a city of dreams for everybody. Because all these great people lived there. It became a center for the revival of Black art and literature. But unfortunately, race riots. Okay? Because there were too many blacks living, and blacks, many of them were not educated. They were drunkards. They had their own psychological, physical, financial, emotional issues to deal with. So the riots destroyed Harlem as a city of dreams. Okay, you can read all this. So Harlem looked like a city of dreams, but the poverty of blacks living in crowded, substandard tenements ruled by ruthless landlords brought in disillusionment, and those blacks who came from the south initially who thought Harlem is like a dream where you can live wherever you want, made people realize that it's a horrible life. Okay? Of what do we call like ghettos. Remember the word ghettos. Okay, I think we'll stop there. It's almost 10:58. I hope you understood. I'll stop sharing. Anything else you want to talk in the next couple of minutes? You can unmute and talk. I will try to mail it to you right away. I don't know how to send this on Telegram, so I request Manasa to share it on Telegram. Anything?
Yes, ma'am.
All this is not mine. This is copied from the net. So you can find a lot more on the net, but I try to put everything together. Let me just share the document once.
Ma'am, is it from SparkNotes? Or,
I was about to tell you that. Some is from SparkNotes, some is from CliffNotes, some is from Smooth also. That is why I found this. Initially, this is from some site. After I copied, I highlighted all this, made it easy for you.
you can just paste the SparkNotes links, or if possible.
I don't know. I'll have to go back and see. Let me see. Maybe from the next few classes, I'll try that. Then I came across another site which had some more. So that is why this is you don't require this glossary, but those of you who are interested in adding to your vocabulary, you can add. Because we talked about language. Okay. The epilogue, by the way, epilogue is very, very important. Epilogue is what comes at the end.
Conclusion.
completion. So please make a note of this and read it up also. So after this, I came across another site. And that is why I have separated it. So you have some more things here. Okay, so please go through the entire document. Some of it might come as a little repetitive, but I think if you go through the whole thing, you will have a complete picture. Otherwise, Invisible Man is a little difficult to deal with. That is why I prefer to take it up in the morning class and as my first class too. I wanted to complete the difficult ones first. Some of the things have story element, so it's a little easy.
Ma'am, can you tell me the sources, just like Sparkle or something else?
That's what I told you now. I put on different sites. Spark and Cliff and Snoop.
Okay.
Okay. So I don't remember because even browsing is very difficult these days because there are lots of advertisements. Etc. etc. So you can just talk. Super summary is also something that you can check once if you want. Grade saver notes is also there. I may not have copied from all, but you can make use of this. Yeah. It's time up for your next class. It's 11:02. So I'll write here general sites you could use. Okay. I think this for this class, this document is more than enough. But in case somebody any other topic you want to browse, you can browse, or those who are interested, you can read this also. For this also, you can add. Okay, shall I leave now? I'll mail it to you right away.
Ma'am, can you tell
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am.